A valiant push to save our elections enters a major moment. Let's check it out. Welcome to Rob Schmitt Tonight. Of the left's many devious schemes, their war on honest elections threatens to destroy this country the fastest. We have learned this country has zero interest at looking into election fraud because finding it, of course, would be a massive liability. After 5 years of fighting against audits, Fulton County, Georgia recently just admitted to verifying 315,000 votes in the 2020 election that did not have the signature of a poll worker. 5 years they fought before admitting that. Much like we're seeing recently with your tax dollars, nobody in our government is actually protecting the integrity of our elections either. In fact, it's much more sinister. Democrats demand our elections remain unsecured because that works to their benefit. We all know this. Look at 2020. A COVID election, ballots flying all over the place in this country. Biden doesn't even campaign and wins Georgia? Georgia? Well, we now know that Biden won by 11,000 votes with 315,000 votes totally unverified. So is that a win? Remember Brad Raffensperger, the outraged Georgia Secretary of State who ratted on Trump's phone call? Years later, Brad would admit this.
But Brian, if you look at when we did the 100% hand recount, we found 3 counties that messed up, fairly significantly. Number 2 was Fulton County. All of a sudden, they were off by several thousand ballots. Well, it's because you scanned some of these ballots twice.
Several thousand? Priceless moment there. Democrats called the 2020 election, the COVID election, the most secure we had ever seen. That's power. When you can say something so obviously untrue and just mock people, forcing them to accept it. That's the kind of thing you see in a dictatorship, right? Right now, Republicans are demanding a 50 threshold vote in the Senate to pass what is called the SAVE Act, which will mandate only citizens vote in our elections. Democrats are losing their minds over the potential of this. Chuck Schumer is calling this Jim Crow 2.0.
We haven't seen anything quite like this. The dramatic drops in the president's popularity and poll numbers. So, of course, what's his answer? What's Trump's answer? Undo democracy itself. That's the oldest trick in the book of dictators.
By the way, the most accurate pollster, Insider Advantage, has Trump at 50% right now. So the first part of his statement there. And the second part speaks to how terrified they are of a secure election in this country. For years, they've been telling us that black people just don't have ID. That's their desperation. Just pull that race card as hard as you can. We can't ask for ID because black people don't have ID. But then you go into black neighborhoods and you ask people if they have ID, and they look at you like you're an idiot. Rightly so. Democrats are using race to stop us from mandating secure elections the way every other first world nation on the planet does, and a lot of whatever you would call second, third world countries do as well. Look at all those countries that demand that they know who the hell is voting in their elections. And most of those countries are a lot smaller than we are. So the elections are already more secure in the first place. We got 330 million people here and we don't want to check ID? Yeah. It's a massive scam. And it's part of what's enabled the Democrat Party to move so dangerously to the left. Imagine what the party would look like if our elections were actually secure. Imagine what the Democrat Party would have to look like if this country had secure elections and only citizens who were vested in this country were allowed to vote. The Democrat Party would actually have to put together a platform for hard-working American people rather than their current one, which mostly caters to criminals and illegal aliens. And as Chuck Schumer screams Jim Crow 2.0 and we all just roll our eyes and scoff, here's CNN indicating that requiring voter ID and only citizens to vote in this country might be the most bipartisan popular idea in the country right now. Take a listen.
I got all this polling on the screen going back since 2018. You'll notice on all of it, it's all north of 75%, 76%, 76%, 76%, 81%, and then 83% in the last year of Americans agree with Nicki Minaj. They favor photo ID to be able to vote. You got 95% of Republicans, pretty much all of them, But even 71% of Democrats favor photo ID to vote. Actually, it's not really all that controversial. The American people are with Nicki Minaj, whether they are Republican or even if they are Democrat.
71% of Democrats, 83% of the people in this country want to verify who's voting. They want ID, they want you to be a citizen, they want that to be mandated, and they want verification of it. 83% of Americans don't support anything. I can't think of one thing that 83% of this country agrees on at this point. Can you? One thing? You know? I don't even think 83% of Americans like Tom Hanks or other just broadly accepted movie stars and ideas and restaurants, anything. 83%? That's insane. So who are the other 17% that are preventing this, that are so willfully going against the will of the people? Well, of course, they're the ones that are connected to our government, desperately trying to turn this country socialist so Washington, the swamp, can take complete control of the American economy and rapidly expand its power, wealth, and control. Remember, this country produces, $30 trillion a year? The government only gets like 6, 7 of it and then spends 8 of it really and puts us further into debt. Can you imagine how badly Washington wants control of all $30 trillion that come through here? Man, that's the 17%. And that's how much power that they have. There's something that has 83% support, and it feels like it doesn't have a prayer of getting through. That's wild. These are the people screaming Jim Crow, claiming that black Americans don't have identification. You don't have ID? How do you drive? How do you live? How do you get heat? How do you get anything? Oh, you have ID. Yeah. While also remaining silent as an even more enhanced version of your current ID, the same people that say you shouldn't have ID to vote, these people are also silent because now you need an even more enhanced version of your current ID simply to travel in this country. Take a listen.
Real ID is now required for domestic flights. If you show up without one, it will cost $45 and up to 30 minutes longer in wait times. The TSA recommends paying online in advance or just bringing your passport, which is fully compliant with Real ID requirements.
You notice how everybody in this country right now is talking about, oh, I got to get the freaking Real ID. Oh, I got to do that. I got to do that. Everybody's just talking about this. You hear nothing about this from politicians in this country. I thought identification was Jim Crow. Where's Chuck Schumer on this one? Where's Hakeem? Why are they okay with, not only do you have to have a driver's license to fly already, I think that's already racist, right? You need an even better one now. You need a real ID, like double, triple stamp verification. You need, oh, they better know who the hell's on the plane. Jim Crow? What? The reason is because the federal government wants you to be fully monitored and controlled in every single setting, in every single thing you do except voting. That's the one place they don't want it. That's how corrupt these people are. Right now, the Senate is debating bringing the SAVE Act, which passed the House last spring, finally to the floor. But you know how the Senate is. It's the uniparty. John Thune says he's considering forcing Democrats to do what's called a talking filibuster, which would be the best chance we have here, requiring Democrats to actually verbally get out there and filibuster the vote to keep the threshold for passing this bill at 60. And 60 means it would never pass. Its best chance is at 50, and you get a little nervous there with people like Collins and Murkowski. Once Democrats inevitably run out of gas with the talking filibuster, only 50 would be needed to pass this bill. That's it. The threshold would be 50, just half. The president loves the idea of Democrats forced to go out and speak, to publicly defend no voter ID laws in this country in this speaking filibuster. Take a listen.
Who would not want voter ID? Only somebody that wants to cheat. Think of it. We don't have voter ID, and the Democrats don't want it. And the reason they don't want it because they want to cheat, because there's no reason in the world, and I love that debate, Lindsay. I love saying, well, why don't you want voter ID? And you watch them say, I don't know.
Let them get out there for hours and explain why they go against something that 83% of people in this country want, simply because it's for their power. It's the only thing they care about. Do you think any of these people care about the country? No. They care about the next election. That's it. They're getting rich. They're staying in power. they're happy. That's it. Here's the bigger picture. Our country right now is being dragged to the left rapidly. We've had a big win about a year ago, right? But broaden out. We are being dragged to the left. We can all see it. Our Democrat Party, in a two-party system, is unrecognizable from just 20 years ago. Open border, pro-crime, insufferably woke, pro-trans, fraud enablers. You don't recognize these people. These were not the Democrats of 2006. It's not even close. We have a couple major opportunities here to force that party back toward sensible, back toward the middle, which is something that we need, because in a two-party system, the pendulum's going to swing. They're going to get power, we're going to get power. It's going to be like this forever. We have a chance to pull Democrats back towards common sense. A couple chances. One is the upcoming census, which we've shown you a lot in the last couple of weeks. Blue states are bleeding delegates as Americans move away from their horrific policies towards sensible red states. You combine that with the idea that we could have secure elections in this next election, and conservative common sense could start winning this tug of war that the left has been winning for far too long, that has dragged this country so far to the left for so many years. But it starts with the Senate leader, John Thune, ending this outrageous delay of the SAVE Act, 300-something days at this point. And that is something that Trump can force him to do. Trump can make this a really big deal. He's not doing it yet, but he can pound on this and force the issue and add the United States to the list of every other first world country that actually demands election integrity. All right, Congresswoman Anna Paulina Luna joins us tonight. It's good to have you here, and obviously we're talking about something so important, which is the security and the integrity of our elections. You seemed very hopeful about using the talking filibuster in this moment to try and get this passed, which the old school version of the filibuster, a senator has to actually physically stand there on the floor, talk nonstop without any breaks in order to delay or block the vote. The Senate Majority Leader was asked about this earlier today. It seems like he's softening on this idea of potentially getting rid of the 60-vote threshold in order to pass this. Take a listen to this.
We will get a vote on the SAVE Act at some point, and I'm not sure exactly what that context will be. We will vote on the SAVE Act, but exercising or triggering a talking filibuster has ramifications, implications that I think everybody needs to be aware of.
What ramifications is he talking about, and describe what you hear in that soundbite?
Well, you know, I can tell you that the Senate does have a different rules of the House, but from what I've gathered and been able to really research on the talking filibuster in the last 24 hours, of which I was made aware of it literally just yesterday at the White House and among a few senators, is that Senator Thune is actually, and he has stated publicly today that he's going to be talking with his conference about the talking filibuster. And also too important to note that he is saying that this might take away other debate time from other important issues. But I actually would say to Senator Thune, who I do believe is going to do the right thing and will embrace this, especially after the president came out literally just today in the Oval Office and said that he wants the Save America Act passed with voter ID. That is 100% something that he's advocating for. But again, going back to Senator Thune's position, this is an issue of national security. I think that this is probably one of the most important things in our country today. And I think after you heard literally Chuck Schumer say that he wants to give amnesty to over 20 million illegal immigrants, literally replacing American voters with illegal votes, I think that that's really all you need to know about this topic. Pass the Save America Act immediately, and we will be voting that in the House.
83% of Americans want ID shown, want citizenship proven to vote in this country. That you don't get 83% of Americans agreeing on anything. And then when you ask Chuck Schumer, who's been in the Senate for 1 million years, he calls it Jim Crow to demand this. And that right there tells you everything you. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, I think Chuck Schumer was around in Senate probably during the Jim Crow era laws, because he seems to be surely not even pointing out the fact that it was his party that pushed that. Look, for them to call voter ID racist when you literally see the stats, even CNN was forced to report that both Black, Hispanic, Asian, white Americans want voter ID. I mean, it's literally as popular as banning insider trading. So I think we're on the right side of history on this one, and I think that Thune will do the right thing. Look, I wasn't lying to the American people. The president even said it today. He wants wants voter ID. And Thune said that he's bringing this to conference. So I think it's going to happen.
And you think you'll have, if it doesn't require the 60, you think you got the 50?
Well, look, the filibuster right now, there's nothing that's going to happen to remove the filibuster. The votes simply aren't there from Republican senators for that. However, the standing filibuster is a way to work through that and the workaround. And I do think right now there's a lot of very smart people in the Senate that are working on this, to include many senators that I've talked to. And I think the president's on board with it. So
the president certainly seems, I don't know why he wouldn't be. He's been talking about the 2020 election for 4 years. I think he needs to fight this thing as hard as he possibly can. I think he needs to really lay a stick down on the ground and make his point heard more forcefully. I want to switch. I want to talk about Epstein for a second. You're on House Oversight. This recent dump has been a lot more bad news for several more high-profile people. Are you satisfied with the transparency that you're seeing? You've been one of the most authentic people fighting for this. It's being called a cover-up by Democrats. They think that the DOJ is washing Trump's name out of this. Are you satisfied with the transparency you're seeing on this?
I think that the DOJ has been working as quick as possible. I think I was actually talking to you recently about the fact that it was a Democrat Obama-appointed judge that literally was responsible for the second review, which is what caused the delay. And it was also one of the same judges that actually killed Ro Khanna and Massey's effort to have someone that was overseeing the release of all of these files. And so what I think is very interesting is Democrats are not wanting to talk about the very wealthy and very powerful Democrats that are in those files. And let me tell you, based on some of the stuff that's come over in the last, or come out in the last 24 hours. I mean, even Nicki Minaj was calling it out. Very disgusting, very weird. But again, if President Trump had something to hide, he would have never advocated for the DOJ to release these files. I've actively been talking to the president on this topic. And so as of right now, I'm, again, still going through all these files. There's literally, there's tons of documents. But I am right now, again, going through and combing through everything.
Curious to see what you're going to ask Bill Clinton when he testifies later this month. And yes, if the president were in any of these files, something tells me in the last 11 years, somebody would have found him, the deep state that hates him so much, that wants to remove him so much from power. Congresswoman, it's good to see you. Thanks so much.
Most certainly. God bless.
All right.